Welcome to Vision Unchained, a show about the shakers and movers in your community. The unsung hero, the go-getter, the dreamer who executed that is sitting right next to you, who is providing some insights on how they made it all happen. I'm Dr. Sean Jones-Quaidoo. I'm an orthopedic spine surgeon in Dallas, Texas, and I'll take you on a journey to meeting these dynamic individuals. Today on Vision Unchained, we have a very special guest, Captain Lushan of the United States Coast Guard, a devoted husband, author, and just a dynamic individual. This guy is so badass, he's even carried the nuclear football for Vice President Biden. You're gonna love this episode. Tune in. Let's get started. Here we go. Vision Unchained. Captain Lushan,
my brother.
Welcome to Vision Unchained, the inaugural podcast episode. I'm honored and super excited to have you, a brother from another mother.
Yes.
We go back many years.
Yes.
This is just special in its own right. We get to come together, hang out, do this podcast, but also really get to hone in and deliver a message to the community. And I couldn't think of anyone else who I would love to have for that initial podcast to say, hey, here's someone's story that I think would resonate with the community out there. And I'm super excited to bring this to the public. With that being said, Vision Unchained is here to communicate to, I would say, young men in today's society who are trying to understand how they could achieve in life, but get it on a more granular level.
Right.
And for lack of a better term, you're a real man. Mm-hmm. And that definition could be vague. We can go many different directions with that. But you're a genuine, real individual who has lived life like everyone else, not necessarily given or blessed with just certain opportunities, but created opportunities. And with that, you have a story to tell. Right. And if people would really open their eyes and their hearts to it, there may be several people right in their near vicinity that have a story to tell that could help them learn the ways and move on and achieve in life. Right. So with that, let's hear your story.
All right.
Take me back.
My brother, Dr. JQ, first, it's truly an honor to be here with you. We go way back to high school, and I know you and I talked for years about collaborating and pushing each other to achieve higher levels of success. You're one of my dearest, closest friends, and I credit you with a lot of my own personal success. So I want the audience to know that peer-to-peer mentorship is important, and I hope we get into that discussion today as well.
Certainly, we got to hit on that. Yeah. Absolutely, and I'm honored.
Proud of you for starting the podcast. Great logo, Vision Unchained. I love the name, and this is a really special day for me. So thank
Fantastic.
You.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, that we share that honor, and we probably could spend 15 minutes talking about how much we love each other as brothers, but certainly, but with that being said, I mean, you are an accomplished, super accomplished individual, captain in the United States Coast Guard, Captain Lushan. Tell me about this early days of your journey.
Yeah, it's surreal for me to hear that, Captain. Right. So if I could start somewhere, and if I'm talking to my younger self, I take myself back to maybe freshman and sophomore year of high school before we even met. And so, my parents were in the Coast Guard, and so we moved around a lot. And I was a big athlete. I ran track and field, played football, and to scene set a little bit, our high school, correct me if I'm wrong, was maybe 70% African American or minorities.
I think so. And that being our high school, High Point High School,
right,
in Beltsville, Maryland. Yeah,
I
believe so. I believe that's correct.
Right. So conversely, the high school I came from in Texas was 95% white. So I had two dichotomies of experiences.
What part of Texas was that again?
This was a suburb of Houston called Clear Lake.
Clear Lake, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So two dichotomies of experiences, cultural experiences, right?
Right.
To start off my high school journey. And so there, at a small black population of mostly athletes, that I hung around, and hip hop was big. And
That's right, because this was in the early 90s.
yeah,
That's
this
right.
was, so yeah, let me show my age a little bit. So I know 92, I was an 8th grader, I believe. So, and then I think I came around 94, 95, 96 to you. So this was like 92 to 94.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, hip hop was big. It was emergent. Not only the music, but the dress, the style of dress.
Right.
Wearing our clothes very baggy, getting into, within my circle of friends, getting into mischief, was the kind of the cool thing to do, right?
Fair enough.
Being a great athlete, and just kind of being a class clown, and, that was the thing to do within that circle, right? To be,
and you were in that
to
circle.
be accepted, to be accepted.
That was your crew,
right?
All right.
Just athletes and just kind of having fun. Right?
Okay.
Academics wasn't really, stressed amongst my peer group. It was definitely stressed at home, but different ages you get influenced by different circles in life.
So this is real. So you weren't a straight A student.
Far from it.
Doing okay.
Far from
okay.
it. For pretty good athlete.
Captain Lushan Hanna,
Pretty good athlete.
accomplished, achieved gentleman, but didn't start out straight A student.
Didn't start. No, not even close. I think I got my grades good enough to play sports.
Fair point.
That was my objective.
And that's the truth for many people.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's reality.
Definitely. So, it's interesting. I just remember this vividly. It was at some point between Texas and Maryland. I want to say it was Maryland. So I came into Maryland, not the strongest student, but still an athlete. My parents had divorced at that time, and so my mom and we moved to Maryland. And I hadn't seen many people that looked like me that were focused on academics, and academics was, the way to fit in. That wasn't my circle. My circle was just pure athletes and mischief, right? And not to disparage anyone, from Texas. I'm sure definitely that someone did well, but for my small circle,
small circle, that was your truth.
That was my truth. And I remember this vividly. I think images are powerful. There used to be a show on BET called the Honda Academic Challenge, and I'm probably messing up the name, but it was almost like an academic quiz show, and it pitted mostly historically black colleges and universities, teams of 4, I believe, against each other.
Wow.
And, I think
Have to look that one up.
Channel surfing one time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, maybe some of the old episodes. And I got a kind of a serendipitous story about that too. But anyway, and I see these 4 young men, I believe they were from Morehouse or another university, and they had bow ties on, and they were sharp, and they were so intelligent. And I had never seen young black males, carry themselves that way and just be so intelligent. And, images are powerful, and something resonated in me to say, I want to be that. I think I can be that. So something as trivial as like a TV show, to you start to visualize what's
God
possible.
speaks to us in various ways, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's embarrassing because I have great parents, and they tried to instill these things on it, but it took
maybe they prepared you to be able to receive that message.
Yeah. And friends of the family too. They were very inspirational for me to push myself, but that moment plus being in a different environment around more minorities who were successful like yourself. When I came to Maryland, right, that was eye-opening to me.
Wow.
And that really pushed me. And I did finally get straight A's at some point, at a high point. And that's what really changed for me, that image of success that looked like me.
And did you know you were looking for that? I mean, because you didn't necessarily look at your situation in Houston as a problem, did you?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I was getting by just fine. Yeah, I was getting by just fine. I wasn't failing.
You weren't failing,
but I wasn't excelling.
Athlete and you were doing fine.
Yeah,
but then something clicked. And you went to High Point, and you saw this image of success, and you said, you know what, I want that. I think I want that.
Right.
That resonated with you. And then you went on and you graduated from high school, and then you went to university.
Right.
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 Not everyone goes straight to university,
Right.
but in this environment, you decided, hey, this is going to be my next step. How did that process go? How did you choose where you wanted to go and what you wanted to major in?
Right. So, I love African American culture. I mean, I'm half Puerto Rican, but I was raised by my African American mother, and I'm very proud to be African American. And I knew I had a few objectives when I was choosing school. One was I wanted to go to a smaller school because I was just getting to be a stronger student, but I wasn't Ivy League level. I kind of was very real with myself there. And two, I wanted an HBCU experience. So I was looking for schools that met those two criteria. I thought that would be a great supportive environment for me. And I had family members, distant cousins who'd gone to HBCUs. I had gotten a chance to visit some of those campuses, and it just felt like a very inclusive environment, somewhere I would thrive, right, and feel welcome. And applied to several colleges. Can't remember which ones I got in or which ones I didn't get into, but
it's been some time now.
I know. I finally
we'll give you some grace there.
And I had a family friend who was an alumnus of Johnson C. Smith University advocate for me to get some scholarships. And showed up there with a partial academic scholarship to go to school.
Fantastic.
There. Yeah. So
here's a guy that wasn't even focused on academics.
Right.
Goes to High Point, improves his academics, and then gets a scholarship for it.
Right.
That's strong work.
Yeah. So that was a blessing.
What did you choose to major in then?
Yeah. So I think I was undecided.
Okay. Didn't have it all figured out.
Didn't have
the game plan from A to Z.
Yeah, and that's true today.
That's true.
That's true today. I just being true to myself. I have a variety of interests. I just knew I wanted to go there and learn and kind of maybe figure it out while I was there. And I think I settled on something pretty early, and it was the sciences. So I ended up majoring in general science, focused in chemistry. Never thought I would have a love for that, but the analytical procedure. The way you come up with conclusions using the scientific method fascinated me. I love facts and data and exploring, and I think there's this exploratory side of science where you can discover new things and prove what you're saying is true.
For the youth that are listening, as you figured this out, right? Because you didn't go in knowing this is what you wanted to do. You got there and you kind of said, I like the scientific method and understanding. What allowed you to explore in yourself or even begin to understand what you like? Like how do you help someone coming up begin to understand how do they sample while in undergrad to figure out what they might want to do?
Right. So I think a lot of universities facilitate that by broadening, your first year. You get to have electives or general ed. And I think I had a basic science course that freshman year and just really resonated with me.
Really resonated with you.
And I was like, I think I want to take.
Were you locked in as a freshman? Or were you kind of out there just hanging out?
Yeah. I hung out. I hung out. Yeah. Wasn't as focused as I should have been. I enjoyed the HBCU experience a little too much. And this is good for people to hear. I think,
it is. It's necessary. It's again your truth,
right?
And people need to hear that because if they look at the end result, you're an achiever,
right?
Hands down,
right?
But they need to understand it wasn't always I had this locked in, and that's important, I think, for people to hear.
There were some definitely twists and turns. Probably my strongest semester was my first one. I was locked in that first semester.
Okay.
And then as I got around campus and got to know things, it started to taper off from
the
there.
Puerto Rican brother. Come on,
It was a great college experience, and so with that, I did lose that academic scholarship. So that was another turning point.
People always think that only those who succeeded in life really did it straight shot, and they always had it great. Here it is.
That's it.
There was a downturn.
Yeah, you have ups and downs. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I'll get to this later. I think those twists and turns in my life, I think it's helped me be a better leader.
Help you build character.
Much less judgmental than I see from my other peers who want perfection in the people they lead. And I think because of my own personal experience, I'm able to value those imperfections and be able to work with it and see the potential. Because I see myself in those people who kind of slip off the path and need to get back on track. So
that's powerful. Yeah, that's powerful.
But with that, so still got to pay for school, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, I consider the Coast Guard kind of a family business. So my biological father was active duty for about 26 years. My stepdad, who raised me, I consider dad, who did over 22 years. My mother did 30 years. So I'm at 26. So we're over 100 years between the four of us.
And thank you for your service as well.
Thank you. But that was they never pushed it on me.
Okay.
They wanted me to find my own path. But after breaking the news of my mom, she said, "All right, buddy, what are you going to do?" And when I went home that summer, there was a brochure for something called the MORE program, Minority Officer Recruitment Effort. It's now called the C-SPI program, College Student Pre-Commissioning Initiative. The Coast Guard is very small, and we don't have an ROTC like the other services. Mm-hmm. So this program is the closest thing we have to target college students. And so I'd been around the Coast Guard, obviously all my life with my parents. Lots of friends of the family were in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
And so, I used to go to work with my mom. I've been on multiple bases and whatnot. And I said, hey, why not? They're paying for 2 years of school, and all it required was a 3-year commitment. So
I feel like I remember when you were interviewing for that. Did you have to go out of state to do the interview?
So that interview is another funny story. My school was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the interview was at the recruiting hub in Greensboro.
Okay.
And back then I had a hoopty. It was a Dodge Monaco.
Okay.
And if you ever looked at the Eagle Premier, it looks identical, but the Dodge Monaco was only made for like 1 or 2 years. So it was tough to get parts. I had to replace the radiator radiator. I had to replace the radiator. That tells you how dated it was.
Okay.
3 times. It always had battery issues.
Wow.
And sure enough, Greensboro's an hour and a half away. The morning of my interview, I have my one tie. Right, I put my one tie on and my dress shirt on. And of course, I have a battery issue, and it starts to rain.
Oh my gosh.
And my windshield wipers don't work.
Come on.
Yeah.
What's going on?
And
this is the day of your interview.
This is the morning of.
Oh my goodness.
My Dodge Monaco. And so there I am rolling the window down, and this probably wasn't the safest thing to do, sticking my head out the window because I can't see out the windshield. And I'm like, this is my one time, and I'm like drenched from the top here down, like maybe to my chest.
You're in dress clothes, going for an interview, and you got your head out the window.
Barely dress clothes. I just got the dress shirt and the top.
Okay.
Yeah, I only had I couldn't afford a suit jacket then.
Okay.
And I'm getting drenched, trying to unsafely drive to this interview in Greensboro.
Okay.
I make it to the recruiting office, and God was on my side. I lucked out in that I was not the first. There was multiple people getting interviewed.
Right.
So I had time to dry off.
Did you like go and find a blow dryer?
I think it air dried because we went from there to another place. So like by the time I went into the interview room, you could hardly tell. So that was my interview day story. And I got it.
Okay. Wow. That is a great story. And you interviewed, and obviously it went well.
It went well. Funny enough, a few of the people on the panel were familiar faces. I couldn't quite make the name, and later found out that they knew my parents and whatnot. Okay. And so it's a small world.
Small world, right? Small service of the armed forces.
Yeah. And not like I got any special treatment, but they it was nice to feel comfortable in that room. So the interview went well, and there I was, accepted, and then off to basic training in Cape May, New Jersey, the summer between my sophomore and junior years.
So before we move away from the interview, you had some family influence in the sense that the military and the Coast Guard was around you. Many people will, first of all, it's honorable and a privilege to be a part of the armed services in general, any branch of it. And I'm thankful for what we have here in America. but some people steer away from it. Like, I'm not joining the armed services.
Right.
You went towards it, and you could have also said, I watched them, and there's no way I'm going to do what they did.
Right.
What allowed you to get over maybe some of those hurdles or what are some of the things you hear out in the community why people are hesitant to do it, but yet you found value in? Maybe help someone understand that.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me personally, obviously I grew up around it, so that was an easier barrier to get through, the kind of unknown. You know, it was a lot unknown to me. But, you know, some of the things I hear from people about their apprehension with going to the military is that I don't want to die, right?
Okay,
I don't want to risk my life for my job.
But not all entry points are that way.
That's a big misconception.
Big misconception, right?
And so for the Coast Guard example in particular, we don't really have people that die in combat. We've had very few examples. I can count on one hand maybe in the modern era.
So everyone out there listening, you're not just going to die. Right. Okay? Join the Coast Guard, right? Let's check that box.
Right. You can. I mean, we do dangerous stuff.
We do. Everyone does. You can also on your way to work driving your car.
Yeah. And I'm talking about combat, a few examples. But the domestic missions, of course, we have aircraft. So that's a very risky mission, especially helicopters. Okay. We've had accidents where people have perished. So, it's a risk. It's a risk. But I would say on the whole, when you look at the risk to yourself, I mean, it's, depending on your specialty, what you choose to do, very minimal, very minimal risk.
Fair enough. All right. What else do you hear people say or hesitate to have apprehension about that you could dispel here today?
So I got a funny one though. I think I can't attribute the comedian right off the top of my head, but it was one of the Tory brothers, and I think he grew up in a military family, and they were trying to get him to, I believe, go in the Army. And he said, why would I take a job that I can't quit? I was like, that's kind of fair. All right. So, you sign a contract, typically, most often it's 4 years. And with few exceptions, you have to fulfill that commitment.
But there's a lot of upside.
There's a lot of upside. Stability. There's a lot of upside. And benefits, right? That come with that commitment, right? Educational benefits, especially medical benefits, housing.
Which you then were able to get when you joined.
Right,
as well.
Exactly. I only had a 3-year commitment, right? And look at me 26 years later. So
fantastic. Thank you for speaking to some of that. I know people are, again, nervous about the armed forces, but there's stability in that, in going in that direction. So here you are, you're in, and you probably have stories for days about your journey while being in the Coast Guards. I mean, I remember when you were on, I like to say the belly of the ship. I'm not in the armed forces, but the belly of the ship. And I remember you telling me some stories about eating lobster, so much lobster, you got tired of eating lobster.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to delve into that. But even before doing that, you had an opportunity to travel.
Right.
Probably more than what most people realize.
Yeah.
Talk about that adventure.
Yeah, so after, I went to basic training in college, and then that summer between my junior and senior year, I was required to do a summer training at a Coast Guard unit, multiple Coast Guard units. And so that was actually my first time underway on a Coast Guard cutter. I was still a college student or officer trainee. It was out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And it was a patrol throughout the Caribbean doing counter-drug and migrant interdiction operations. And so, this was even before that first tour with all the lobster. So it was enlightening, right? Chasing drug runners. Right, migrants who just wanted a better life for themselves and their families. We would interdict them at sea. It's a humanitarian mission to get them back to safety and process through immigration services.
You were doing this while still in college?
Still in college, yeah.
So, wow.
An interesting story with that first one, it was a load of Cuban migrants, and they're on very, very, what's the word?
Are you talking about their vessels?
Yeah, their rafts are very,
they're not safe.
Handmade. They're handmade, not fit for sea.
Yeah,
right. Not
seaworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
I learned a little bit from
you. And I remember when we had to transfer this load of Cuban migrants, one of them handed me a ripped up piece of paper, And so, you know, so when we take on a little migrants, you know, they're usually on our flight deck, or we shelter them, we feed them and whatnot, and give blankets and whatnot, basic care. And so this was our time to transfer them off our vessel. And, you know, you interact with them while they're on board. You don't just, you know, stay away. And so, you know, I don't know what it was about this gentleman. You know, he chose me to hand this piece of paper to. And I believe he shook my hand and he said, "Please take care of this," or something like that. And when I opened it up, it was his medical degree.
Wow.
And the reason he did that was he didn't want Cuban authorities to realize that he was a physician fleeing the country, because then his punishment would have been a lot worse.
Wow.
So yeah, that was powerful. It really, really resonated. How lucky we are to be U.S. citizens.
Yes.
Right? So yeah, this was a physician, you know, just trying to make a better life.
Make a better life for himself and his family.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's very profound. When you were doing this in undergrad and in the later years as you progressed through the Coast Guard, were you doing this on your own volition, your own power, just kind of figuring things out? Did you seek out mentors while you were in the Coast Guard? Did they find you? How did you get plugged in and work your way through the system?
Yeah, it helped to have family members to connect me.
Okay.
But also being open to it.
Okay.
You know,
that's profound. What do you mean by that, being open to it?
Yeah, I think it comes from humility and just knowing that you don't have all the answers, that you could benefit from help.
You mean you don't have it all figured out
Right.
in the midst of it? Okay.
Right. So I was one of those junior officers that sought out mentors. Right.
Okay. You were humble enough to ask for guidance.
That's right. Like, how did you do that? How did you accomplish that?
Not everyone could do that. Not everyone could go up to someone and say, "Hey, how'd you make that happen?"
Right.
Were you always that kind of person?
No, I don't. You know, I don't know what got into me with that. You know, I just knew that I didn't know a lot. Right. Mm-hmm. This was a new thing, and I think that drive and that fear of not knowing and not wanting to fail. You know, I sought help.
So maybe that was your engine.
Yeah.
Your drive to not want to fail.
Right.
Said, look, if I don't go and figure this out, get someone to help me figure this out, there's a higher possibility this isn't going to go well. Also, and you haven't necessarily said this, but maybe some of your experiences in undergrad, maybe losing that scholarship, knowing what it is to stumble.
I think that's
kind of
fair.
Like, look, I need to figure this out.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I don't want to face that valley again. Right.
Yeah.
I want to stay consistent and stay up. So let me, you know, buy down this insurance policies of mentors, you know, to ensure my success.
Did everyone receive you?
I'd say 95, 90. I mean, very rare did I ever get ignored or there was no reciprocation.
Good.
Right.
Okay. So you were well received.
All walks of life, all ranks, backgrounds.
Did you find that as long as you were brave enough to ask, more people were willing to offer 100%, some assistance, right?
100%.
Because I think a lot of times individuals feel that maybe they're nervous to ask. Like, no one's going to help me. They're not. They're too busy.
Right.
It's almost as if they answered for that person before they've even given them a chance to give their rebuttal.
Right.
So you were brave enough to ask, and you found it well received.
Oh, 100%. 100% in all instances.
Fantastic.
No matter what the scenario. So.
And so you sought out one mentor, various mentors?
So the way I break down mentorship, and I mentioned this in the book, I think there's...
Your book.
Yes. CG Learning the Ropes, and that's another story.
Well, no. It's worth mentioning. The title, full title of that book?
Coast Guard, CG Learning the Ropes, or Learning the Ropes. I think we call the website CG Learning the Ropes.
And they can find that where, by the way?
So
a little plug.
CGLearntheropes.com. We're not on Amazon, unfortunately, but CGLearntheropes.com.
Fantastic. So, All right. So as you were saying, even in your book, and you were speaking to how to select mentors, speak to that.
Right. So I categorize them as mentors. They're either a reason, a season, or a career. Right. So
reason, a season, or career.
Right.
Okay.
So I think there's a myopic view of mentorship that it has to be someone that you check in with every week or every month, and you have these, coffee sessions.
Myopic view. We have some of our listeners might not follow you on that.
Yeah, just a limited view of what mentorship should look like.
There you go.
Right. So I'm trying to take a more limitless or unlimited view of mentorship.
Okay.
So I put it in these three categories. So reason looks like, hey, I'd love to apply to this program. I know of an individual who's done that program. Let me cold call or cold email them to see if they could offer me some advice on what they did to get into that program, right? You don't have a relationship with them. You're just reaching out for that very tactical advice.
Okay.
Right? A season for me is a period in your career or your life. And so for me, that was easy to break down in the military because we have tour lengths, right? Typically 2 to 4 years, you're at a specific unit. And so at that unit, or in the civilian side, at that job or at that company, that season of your life, you can develop mentors that are specific to that organization.
Yes.
Right? People who have been there longer than you, have more expertise. You may not talk to them after that tour, or after you leave that company, but for that season of life, for that season, they are a mentor, right?
Yeah.
And then career, kind of self-explanatory. Those people that sustain that relationship throughout your entire career, your entire life. They're always there. Someone you can always rely on, no matter what season you're in or whatever reason you're in. So.
Fantastic. Now, did you figure this out on your own, by the way, or is this something someone had coached you on about?
No, this is all me. Just that's the way I kind of think about things.
And it kind of fits maybe even across other industries as well, right? Having
100%.
certain advisors,
100%,
and where they fit into your life at that time, and helping guide the structure. Very well said. Very well said. So then, you are in the Coast Guard. You're having this amazing adventure. You stayed in.
All right.
It was only 3 years that was required.
Only 3 years. Yeah.
How did they keep you? How did you decide to stay? What occurred?
Yeah, there were a few points where I thought about getting out. Funny enough, I even looked at the Army, right?
Okay.
Surprisingly. Luckily, I had a not so great recruiter in the Army helping me out. And so I was like, yeah, I'm just okay. I don't want to.
I'm good on that.
Yeah. Because they had a chemical officer program, and I wanted to more specialize, get back to my major. And it just didn't work out. But it obviously worked out for the best to stay. And I think overall, the drive was that the good outweighed the bad. The pros outweighed the cons. I was still having fun. I was in a career. If you stay in the military, you can rely on not only the benefits, but that compensation to go up pretty much every year. So I was continuing.
That security of the armed forces.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to get paid,
and it's going to go up every year based on cost of living and whatnot. It's increased every year I've been in. I had tons of great opportunities for professional development. They funded 3 graduate degrees.
What?
And this is where
they funded 3 graduate
3 graduate degrees. I paid $0.
People always think military takes, but here it is. They were giving you opportunity to grow as well.
Yeah. So two thumbnails on the graduate school piece. So this is where I want to bring you into the story. And peer-to-peer mentorship is just so valuable, and you embody that for my life. I was happy that I got a bachelor's degree, right? And so I'm sitting across one of the most academically accomplished individuals I've ever met. So I'll put you out there as graduating high school early, right? And high achiever, probably one of the best GPAs in our high school, I believe. And you were someone that I thought, wow, like I'll never be that. And what you, and maybe I've shared this story with you before, but your friends, the circle you keep is so important. So you probably don't even remember this, but the conversations we used to have back then in our early 20s, we talk about all sorts of things, and then you would just casually bring up graduate school. Because I think, you were working maybe at Anderson Consulting or and whatnot, and you were thinking about grad school, and for you, it was just what you just did. You didn't give it a second thought. It's okay, this is the next thing. And then you turned the question to me. It's like, all right, Lushan, when you going to grad school? And it was the first time anyone had ever posed a question to me. And it was that good peer pressure. Like, oh, man, I better have a good answer. I probably mumble my way through it and kind of lied about, I'm thinking about grad school. Yeah, I got my application in, But it was great to just have a friend push you like that, and without even trying, right, to make you better. And you've always been that for me, especially from an academic standpoint. So I credit you with even getting it in my mind early, So, I know it was probably just a throwaway conversation, but this you never know how much you impact people.
Listen, just this is your journey, your story, and I thank you for even acknowledging that. But I tell you what, it is my desire to see everyone in my circle do great. I mean, anyone who engages with me, I want us all to win.
Right.
And that's my energy. That's how I move through this life.
Yeah.
And of course, I would want that for my brother.
Yeah, same here.
And so that's fantastic. Thank you for that feedback. So, but you ultimately decided to go.
I decided to go. First one was on my own after work, so I'd have my regular work day, and then I would take classes at night. I think we had a spring break trip, you and I was like studying while we were.
Nice.
In between hanging out. But so first one was on my own. The second one, when I say on my own, meaning I wasn't full-time. I was part-time.
Okay.
So I still had to work during the day and take classes at night.
Again, another great point for our listeners to understand. It wasn't all so easy. It wasn't just like stop everything, school's paid for, and you just went. You were a working student.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have a tuition assistance program. It covered everything back then, and it's available to all members of the military. Every service has their own tuition assistance program. And then the other thumbnail I want to mention with graduate school is the second one I got. My second master's degree is in industrial hygiene at the University of Michigan. So in the military, all services have this for officers, mostly where they will send you to graduate school full time with your full salary, fully paid.
Fantastic.
So I was able to go to the University of Michigan as a lieutenant, with my salary, no tuition, and full time be a student.
How'd you earn that? Or is that something readily available to all service members? Will help me understand how you were able to achieve that within the Coast Guard. Yeah,
it's competitive. So you have to have your high evaluations. You have to have achieved within your specialty. You also have to have the academic background. And so that first graduate degree helped. It showed I had the ability to succeed in graduate school.
Fantastic.
That helped. There's a panel within the Coast Guard that decides amongst the officers who would be the best representative of the service and who would be successful for these different programs. And so out of that, they send you off to the school of your choice.
So you certainly gave the Coast Guard enough of yourself and a presentation of yourself that made it harder for them to deny you the next step.
100%.
Right? And so as we think about it, even the audience listening, prepare yourself for success.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Work hard. Understand maybe even what you're being measured on, the evaluations.
100%.
Right? Probably something I remember when you were doing your book, there's probably a section in there about that, understanding what you're being evaluated on, so you're performing to those levels and getting those marks.
Right.
You were doing these things actively so that you had options.
Yeah.
That's something I love to really put out there. Allow yourself to have options in life.
Yes.
And so you were doing that and preparing yourself. Okay. You're going to grad school twice to get these two graduate degrees. You're in the Coast Guard. You're thriving. You're moving up the ranks. Along this journey, at some point, you meet your lovely wife.
I do.
And have some daughters. And I don't want to fast forward too much, but you have your mentor circle. You're kicking butt.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, was not a straight A student starting out.
Nope.
Running around, just having a good time.
Right.
Incrementally, you start realizing, I think I want more.
Right.
I think I'm going to do more.
Right.
Along this journey, what would you say was key, though? Or I mean, you're locked in. You're achieving. It could have gone haywire.
Oh, yeah.
Were there any points where there was a major bump in the road or the aha moment like, nope, full steam ahead, I got this?
Yeah, so multiple bumps. I've made mistakes throughout my career where, I maybe could have put more care into you're in a leadership role, and so in the military, especially the decisions you make with personnel, as far as their ability to stay in the service to receive those benefits or to be punished, things that could be in their permanent record. I got the best advice from a mentor in that for positive recognition, you expedite. For punishment, you sit on it, right? Because these are life-changing decisions, right? You don't want to rush into a decision that could, steer someone's
And this
life.
is you in a role of assessing others, by the way.
Assessing others, right?
And your advice, the advice given to you when you're assessing others.
Right.
Say that again about the positive.
Right. So when it's positive recognition, you expedite it.
Okay.
You don't hesitate. You
let that
make sure
person
it's
know.
timely in a timely manner. Right. But when it's a negative action where you're holding someone accountable, you take your time.
And this is you in the leadership role, learning how to be an effective leader.
Right. Exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Again, because you had mentors that kind of helped guide you through this.
Right.
But you felt like maybe you hadn't executed on that the best way possible. That's why you were seeking some of this advice.
Yeah, so I think it's all reflective. When you kind of hot wash or do an after action in your head, like, man, I could have maybe made that decision better. Or, you do the exit interviews with people and you hear, constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And it's tough to hear sometimes, but you need to hear it.
Fantastic. And you were open to receiving it.
I was open to receiving it.
So many times people struggle with that constructive criticism and receiving that. So again, something you humbled yourself to be able to do so that you can grow.
Right, exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
That's huge. That's huge. And I think people need to embrace that more.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's not to say every bit of criticism is justified. Right?
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
But still hearing it maybe allows you to self-reflect and figure out where some of these things can be improved upon.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, you have achieved these various things. You're taking constructive criticism. You continue to grow. What limits did you see others put on themselves that caused them to not be able to achieve maybe what you have, right? Because you've embodied the success. Right. But you've also probably seen some of the failures. Yeah, not yours, but someone else's. Yeah. What are some, how do you say, take-home diamonds or pearls regarding what you saw that, here are some pitfalls that you would like to speak on to help our audience to understand how they could do better?
I'll talk about just my peers, and it's competitive, and so the pyramid gets tighter as you go up. And what I would see from my peers who would kind of plateau and maybe not rise up to the next rank, to the next opportunity, a lot of them relied on the bare minimum, right?
The bare minimum to get by.
The bare minimum to get by. Right?
You hear that a lot.
I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
My boss says I'm doing a good job, so I'll be all right. I'll make the next rank. And so we have these boards where you have a record, right? And the record has many components. One of the biggest components is your evaluation, right? And so it's heavily weighted. But there's other components too. Like there's another form that documents all your specialized training and courses and special awards that aren't military awards. It's like an optional form, right? I always took that option to capture those things on that other form. There's another document that kind of summarizes your career. And between your evaluation and that optional form and this, we'll call it a summary sheet, and then also the write-ups of your awards, you have a complete record to show the board. And so I like to look at myself as like a museum curator.
Okay.
Right? And my record was this museum, and I was focused on curating the best museum possible to give my best shot possible for the promotion board. Right?
Fantastic.
Whereas, I
love the visualization of that.
Yeah.
I see others being able to utilize that.
Yeah, I didn't want the board to have to read between the lines or, I heard Lushan's a good guy. Oh, yeah, he'll probably be great the next round. No, I didn't want any of that.
Yeah.
I want to assume no one knew me, and they had to judge me purely on this curated museum.
Yeah.
Right? And so I put a lot of effort into updating that record to give myself the best chance, best opportunities. And also then, I've got a family by that time, and I want to also take care of my family in the best way possible. I took that approach versus some peers, unfortunately, they knew that the OER was weighted the most. Like, I got good OERs. I'll be all right. And many, many examples of that. We do a hot wash, and after action when they were maybe not selected for a promotion or an assignment, and we'd look at the complete record. It's like, there's holes here.
There's holes.
You could have just spent some time.
Even if they did have something, they didn't really promote it. They didn't self-promote it. They didn't put it in a way that was easily digestible for the people who were assessing.
Exactly. And we have a saying that goes, people don't get promoted, records get promoted, right?
Wow.
To have the most impartial process, possible, it's about the record, right?
So let's take that even outside of the Coast Guard. What would someone other industries, how would you tell them to replicate that?
Right.
Really, is it the CV? Also your CV?
Yeah, CV,
LinkedIn.
right? It's updating your networks, your contact information with your network so they can get a hold of you so that you can maybe get access to those opportunities within your specialty, right? It's being diligent about your record, your brand, what you present externally.
Fantastic.
Right? That gives you those opportunities, right? Don't just take it for granted that I'll get to it later, It's,
Yes. Now, there was also probably a very intentional and active part that you took to continue to engage with people, your mentors, those who are going to be assessing you or that you wanted to assess you,
right,
so that you can check these boxes.
Right.
How hard was that for you? And I guess what I'm speaking about, do you consider yourself like an extrovert or an introvert kind of person? And how hard was it for you to go out and ask of these people to give you opportunity to assess you so that you can then add it to your curated museum?
Yeah.
Because not everyone knows or feels comfortable going out there and collecting these tokens to build up their museum, if you will.
Right. So, I think it's having honest conversations with your supervisor,
Okay.
being very direct. For some reason, I never had an issue with that.
With being direct.
Being direct,
Okay.
I was like,
Okay.
these are my goals. This is where I'm looking to get to, sir, ma'am. What are your expectations of me to achieve that?
Fantastic.
That's colloquially how I would put it.
So even if someone isn't maybe comfortable doing that all the time,
Right.
if you could do it then,
Right.
in those meetings,
Right.
it'll count for something.
Right.
If you could build up the courage to do
Right.
that, it could be a whole new world for you.
Right. I
Okay.
think transparency builds accountability, right? And if you're very transparent, right, with
Okay.
that, there's no surprises, essentially. So I was very direct in these counseling sessions, and we have policies that dictate, halfway between the year, most grades get evaluated once a year. But at the 6-month point, you have a mid-period counseling, and so I would take those opportunities, full advantage of those mid-period counseling opportunities to make sure I'm meeting expectations. And that's another lesson I learned the hard way. We talk about hard bumps, right?
Yeah.
I had a situation as a lieutenant where I saw a vision for what my unit should be doing. They had a different vision that I didn't agree with, right? In my heart of hearts, I knew I was right,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they held me accountable in the evaluation, right? And I wasn't all that in a bag of chips like I thought, right? Because I didn't meet their expectations. So it taught me a valuable lesson to see the bigger picture, right? And it was in a unique situation where I'm a line officer in the Coast Guard. My boss happened to be from the Public Health Service. So, I knew going into that they were a technician and I was an operator who had some technical skills. And so I'm like, these are what the operators want. We should be doing these things. And they were like, yeah, that's great, but I need you to focus on these technical things. I'm like, it's not that important. I'm getting the mission done. I'm getting feedback externally from other people and not really showing the respect that I should to my boss, right? And so the evaluations I got weren't bad.
Right.
But they weren't, where I saw myself.
Right.
And after that experience, alignment with your boss became very valuable takeaway for me,
So that's a great point because we all face that in some way, shape, or form in life. The misalignment with whether it be a professor, a boss, wherever you are.
Yeah.
And if you were to summarize that, and in retrospect, that alignment is important.
Right.
For you to continue to thrive.
That's it.
There may be other opportunities or times later where you might be able to change course or restructure what you thought could have been different.
Yeah.
But that was not the time.
That was not the time. Yeah. I learned that one the hard way. It was good though. It was good, and that's the other takeaway for people is that embrace these bumps.
Okay, embrace the bumps, but also, as I like to say, people can stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Someone listening can stand on your shoulders, maybe not go through the same bump.
Right, exactly.
Align with your superior
Right.
who affects your future
Right.
so that you can continue to rise.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could change it at a later date.
Yeah.
Is that a fair point?
It doesn't have to be my bump. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be your bump.
Get your own bumps.
Hit your own bumps.
Yeah.
Learn from this one.
Yeah.
Do better.
That's it. That's it.
Very good.
You know
Very
better,
good.
you do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. With all of the things that you've learned, in retrospect now, and this is where you get to brag on yourself a bit, what would you say is your superpower? What would you say you uniquely do very well, or you like? I think this is what's allowed me to thrive, and I call it a superpower, but it's really who is Lushan that allows Lushan to continue to achieve in life.
Yeah. So all due respect to all the leadership training and leadership experience I learned in the Coast Guard, but I have to give credit to the key ingredient to my success, and that's my home training. I had a phenomenal upbringing, parents that loved me and invested in me, and taught me great values that have carried me through, right? That have opened doors for me, that have propensed people to want me, around, right? To be a builder of relationships and networks and be an integrator, right? So that is what's carried me is I think, I don't know, say superpower, but I think it's key to my success is to be a team player, right? To fit in with a team.
I love that. And let me tell you why I still call it a superpower. I think we diminish these things. We take it for granted as if it's easy to just be that.
Yeah.
But people forget to utilize their basic home lessons
Right.
and the basics of being a good individual, being a good person, being kind, being thoughtful, and bringing other people in. As you said, in your case, you're a team player. You know how to integrate people.
Right.
That's a superpower.
Yeah.
Not everyone does that.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've grown up together, and I remember times when you lived in Long Beach and had your get-togethers, you brought people together, all walks of life.
It was a very diverse group. Yeah.
Very diverse group.
Yeah.
But you brought us together.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say that others didn't attempt that, but you did it.
Yeah.
The execution, I think, is so important. People have ideas, but don't necessarily execute on ideas.
Right.
You did. And I think that, quite frankly, is your superpower.
No,
one of many.
Thank
One of many, but certainly
you.
one of your superpowers.
Yeah.
When we talk about, and you've done a good job of explaining your journey and some steps you've taken, bumps in the road, but would you say you were given opportunities as you've gone through life, or did you create opportunities?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. I think the creation side was really preparing myself to be selected for certain opportunities. It's not doing the bare minimum. It's going above and beyond, right?
Going
doing
to grad
the
school,
optional things, right?
Doing the optional things. That was you creating opportunity.
Right. And the given side, I want to go back to the mentorship piece because I think there's a distinction between mentorship and sponsorship. So what mentorship looks like is, hey, let's sit down, let's talk, let me give you some advice. Sponsorship is, hey, I'm going to call that hiring authority and advocate that they select you, right? And so I've had both. I've had mentors and sponsors, right, advocate for me in different ways, right?
Fantastic. Well, other things that I would love for you to share, and you've been giving so many great diamonds to our audience here today, but if you had a daily phone screen message or reminder that would pop up, what would be a mantra or anything that you kind of speak to yourself, remind yourself of as you go on your journeys?
It has to be my favorite quote of all time. And I know it's a tribute to many. I think someone said Dr. Seuss said it, or it was anonymous, but it goes, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Well, all right. All right.
Be true to yourself. In the end, the right people will be there to hear it and be there to advocate for you, and you'll be okay in the end.
Fantastic. That is beautiful. Hey, you mentioned something early on. I wanted to make sure I got back to it. Something about that Honda story that the
Yeah.
accolades and something serendipitous about it. I want to make sure I capture that.
Yeah,
right?
thanks for
that was
bringing
a
that back.
transitional point.
So funny enough, I got with one of our fraternity brothers in L.A. Who
And that fraternity, by the way,
is Capt Alpha Psi, the one and only.
Yes.
And he was helping me put together a slideshow for my mother's retirement ceremony. Right, It had just photos of set to music and whatnot. And I go to his studio, give him the photos, and then talk about what I want to do. And sure enough, he used to be one of the producers on that show.
Wow.
I was saying, you got to be kidding. And I told him like how influential it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's small world.
Small world.
Yeah.
You got a fraternity brother associated with it, and that was such a transformational show for you. That is awesome. That's awesome. You've had such an amazing journey. You've accomplished so many great things. But something that's really cool that probably a lot of people don't realize about you is that you carried the nuclear football for then Vice President Biden.
Yes.
Help the audience understand what that is, how cool that is. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, truly humbling. It was from 2014 to 2016, something I could have never predicted for my life. I think probably one of the most interesting aspects of that experience was the application process.
Okay.
When I entered the Coast Guard, I had no idea these jobs existed, especially for coasties. So there's
real fast. Say what it is for the viewer.
Oh,
Like right off the bat,
What is the nuclear football?
yeah, I can cover on that, but yeah, just go into first of all, what is the nuclear football?
the nuclear football.
So
Yeah.
pick up from there.
Okay. So yes, the nuclear football. It's a satchel that's carried by a member of every armed service that's close to either the president and the vice president. And that satchel allows him to make command and control decisions if there is a nuclear launch.
You carried the bag
carried
that had access to launching nuclear weapons.
Had stuff in there that will facilitate decision making.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. By the way, that's code for you can't tell us all the details, but that is pretty freaking cool.
Yes.
Like how did this come to be? I mean, is that even known that people could do that in the Coast Guard even?
Right. So it's one branch of all the armed services. So back then, 2014 to 2016, there was 5 of us. Now there's 6 because you have the Space Force now. That would have been nice for some of those rough duties where you had to hand off. You didn't have enough people to hand it off to. But so the application process is you put your name in the pile and you compete against other Coast Guard officers based on your record to see if you would be a good fit. And there's multiple gates. You have to go through, obviously, an extensive background investigation to be able to serve White House duty. And then there's multiple interviews. And with that interview, I got to go to D.C. at the White House to interview.
That's right. You were stationed there. I came to visit you there. That was amazing.
Yeah. But before I got the job, they fly you out there for the interview. And so you're with the other finalists competing. You get to interview with the current military aides and then with senior staff. And for me, I thought that was the end of the story. I was going to be able to tell my kids, hey, I got to go interview at the White House. It was great, and I'm kind of smart alecky, so I was like, I wanted to make sure I saw the bathroom. I wanted to make sure I had to go to the bathroom so I could see what the bathroom was like and whatnot. Surprisingly, I was selected against a very competitive group of individuals.
So even as you saw the others in the room and the other applicants, pretty impressive.
I was impressed. I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm getting this job. I know they're sharp, they're sharp, they're sharp. So I was just there living in the moment.
There it is, being humble again because you were sharp and sharp enough and you got the job.
Yeah. That's where that home training came in. I think that's what maybe carried me over a little bit. So it was lots of travel. You were in close proximity to the vice president at all times. I got to travel the world and meet some really high-level leaders and have some unique experiences.
Fantastic.
That were life-changing.
And these aren't things you could have predicted or planned for in your youth.
Wasn't on my radar.
But you prepared yourself for success.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
I love it. Can't wait to hear what's next for you in the future chapters to be written.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to give you another opportunity, though, to plug your book. I mean,
Yes.
listen, you're an author, not just captain in the
Yes.
Coast Guard, and have more than one pieces of work that you've done. So tell us more about that.
Definitely. Learning the Ropes, it's a Coast Guard career development book, and I do have a co-author I want to give credit to, James DePure, and this book came about because as a peer, we've served together multiple tours, and we would just talk about, ways to improve your OER, kind of the politics of the organization, who was going where, and opportunities. And one day we said, hey, we should just capture all these things in a book. And so, he took the bulk of it, focused on like the evaluations and assignments. And I had this section mostly called Golden Nuggets, the things kind of you learn about, and, mentorship sessions, happy hours, stuff that's kind of, off the books a little bit, like keys to success. And so it's Learning the Ropes is the name of the book. And you can find it at cglearningtheropesbook.com. So it's a long name. CG stands for Coast Guard, but cglearningtheropesbook.com. Didn't get into the endeavor to make money whatsoever. If I can give most of them away for free, I would. A lot of the things that I talk about is free,
Okay.
That's in that book, but it's kind of rolls it all up into one.
Listen, a lot of times great advice is free, but you were also really trying to give people a resource on the how to.
Yeah.
Kind of as we're here talking today on the how to, the steps you've taken, the journey you've taken.
Yeah, our mission is to democratize opportunities, right? So everyone who joins the Coast Guard should have the chance to live out their full potential, right? And so that was the goal of that book.
Fantastic.
If you didn't get a chance to serve with me and get it, here it is, right?
There it is.
And then the other book I contributed an essay to. It's called Profiles in Character, Black Excellence, and the Coast Guard. You can find it on Amazon. So I have an essay and several distinguished Coast Guard officers in there with essays, and I think that's a great read as well.
Fantastic. And you counted amongst those several distinguished individuals. So fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. And please, to our audience, go and get these resources, read about them, understand more of what the content is and how you could apply it outside even the Coast Guard, I imagine, right? These are life lessons that, some people think, even as you're sitting across from me in the armed forces, if they're not doing armed forces, maybe you don't have a message from them. No, they could apply a great deal of what you've said in preparing for success in life.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I've made it a point to have diverse circles outside the Coast Guard, right? I think I've learned some of the most valuable lessons from non-Coast Guard personnel to just get their take on a problem. And you and I have had these talks.
Absolutely.
I've got the situation at work. What do you think? And then I'll share some, and just hearing that different perspective.
Absolutely.
Is so valuable. So tune in when it's maybe not your career industry or your specialty. There's nuggets in there, even though it's not, maybe something you're familiar with. So.
Fantastic. Thank you again, my brother. I appreciate you and continue success. May God continue to bless you and your family.
You as well.
All right.
Yeah,
all right. One love. I'll see you.